What's up, everybody? I'm John Middlekauff. You know what I need you to do. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We got content for days reacting to every NFL game all the time, every single day. Subscribe, like the videos. Let's go. What is happening? Little Middlekauff mailbag time at John Middlekauff. At John Middlekauff is the Instagram handle. Looking at it right now. Fire in those DMs and get your questions answered here on the pod. Let's start with Alan. Again, just fire in those DMs. Thinking about the events of the Super Bowl and what could happen in the next few years from Mahomes and the Chiefs. Could we see a Steph Curry career for Patrick? Wins early and shows to be the best player in the league. And then as the team gets older, key players aren't there anymore, and you're just not the same, but you somehow make a championship game a few years later after that last trip. We could see Travis retire, Jones get injured, O-line never becomes strong, Reed retires. What are your thoughts on the similarities, and can you see something similar to Steph's career for Mahomes? Well, I don't think they'll parallel each other because Curry's, when he won his championship in 22, it was still with Draymond Green and Klay Thompson, who had been there since 15, 16, the Durant era. And then obviously those guys had gotten injured in Clay, mainly Achilles and ACL tears. I do think that the best thing that could happen to like his the team big picture, if they had a bad year where everyone got hurt and it was just a disaster. And remember, the Warriors had a year where they had the second overall pick. They had a year where they had two really high picks the following year. So if you can bottom out and get a high pick, and for the Chiefs, that could be like pick 7 or 9 or 10. If they just over the next couple of years have a disastrous season, obviously I don't want this to happen, but if he were to get hurt, remember the Chiefs, or excuse me, the Patriots, I forget what year it was, but maybe they never really bottomed out. I guess they just finished the second the one time with Matt Castle. But you kind of got to either get lucky with some later round draft picks. But if they were to ever have a bad year and Veach were to get a top 10 pick in every round, it would be a problem. It really would. And it also builds on the hype of, this is the year. Remember when, let's just say they went 9-8 and they missed the playoffs. And it's like, he lost his fastball. And then the next year, because you have the 15th pick in the draft, you're able to kind of retool your roster. I doubt that happens. I mean, I'm going to bet the over this year, but I hear what you're saying. I think there are similarities. The difference is Patrick has never needed, Steph took a lot of shit, even though what he had already, Kevin Durant needed him. He didn't need Kevin Durant. Like he'd already won a championship. Kevin came, they won a couple more, and then he leaves. Kevin's never won anything since. Steph's won another championship. It's like Mahomes won with Tyreek, one without Tyreek, one with a good offensive line, one with an average one. So I actually think he's already kind of done all the checklists. How does Anthony Richardson go top 5, but Milroe will be a third round or later pick? Was he almost hurt by how much film we had on him? I've mentioned this before 100%. If Jalen Milroe had just played 12 games in college, if Jalen Milroe would have just, his season last year would have been it. Yes, he would have gone higher. The more film we have on a guy, the more you get nitpicked, especially when it kind of is an up and down experience, especially if you're not the most accurate player. But listen, Jalen Milroe, I saw today, is going to the draft. I don't think he's going to go in the first round. I think that would be insane. I even think as a second round pick, that's pretty crazy. Third round, like Malik Willis has gone in the third round. I can live with that if I'm a team like project, if my OC and my quarterback coach are into it. Though history would say most guys that struggle with accuracy never turn that around. But Milroe, it's hard to get that Georgia first half, which might have been the greatest first half he'll ever play in his life. Was pretty awesome. Everyone loves the guy. I think that's Anthony Richardson had that going for him too. Now clearly that's maturity has been a knock on him. I've never heard that with Milroe. You were talking about Geno and Cousins today, and I thought about other quarterbacks that are close to that age. Other than Russ, I couldn't think of any that had decent careers. Is this a product of college offenses being so focused on bubbles and short passes during that era? Or was it just a weird coincidence that guys are left from the early to mid 10s? Yeah, I think it's a weird coincidence because if that was a trend, we never would have got Lamar, Josh, Mahomes, Herbert. I mean, we've gotten a lot of good quarterbacks, Hurts, Goff, over the last 7, 8 years. So I think it's just a weird coincidence. We did go through a rough stretch there. Cam got old fast, and he was really good for a minute. Obviously, won an MVP, but then his career just fell off a cliff once the shoulder got hurt. But if you think about RG3 got hurt, uh, Foles could never quite find a role bes- beside being a backup. Uh, yeah, I don't know. It's just you know Russ, Dak. There's some mid rounders. Do you consider Dak as part of that? 16, probably a little later than you're talking about. There was a lot of Jake Lockers and Christian Ponders and EJ Manuels. I think it was just a bad 2 or 3 year stretch. Clearly, it feels like we're on a better one right now. It's crazy how that happens sometimes. Patriot fan, excited to see how this upcoming season goes. I know you and Colin feel how you guys feel about the over on our win total. Something to note too is that the farthest the team travels this year to an away game is New Orleans, pending any international games being finalized. My question is, how important is travel distance to overall team health and morale? Seems like a good thing that we don't need to do any West Coast games this season. Listen, I never played in the NFL, so I can't speak to uh, what travel is like on the body. Now, travel has never been easier for these guys, unless you're on the crafts plane, which obviously you guys are. They're like there are cigarette. What was it? There are not cigarette lighters, but ashtrays. That was one knock. There are ashtrays on the plane. It's like, oh, sorry guys, no one's smoking on the plane. Who fucking cares? But I hear you. It's like we'd like a newer plane. That's yeah. But I would say, obviously, if you're traveling, I think it's harder to go west to east. Or excuse me, it's harder to go east to west in terms of if you have a Monday night or a Sunday night game and you're the Patriots, the Jets. The Jets this year played Monday Night Football in San Francisco. Well, the game ends at 8:30 Pacific Standard Time. Well, it's 11:30 their time. So by the time that they get on the plane and start taking off, it's what, 2.5 hours later, probably. Once you do media, shower, eat, and I mean, it takes a couple hours to not only takes an hour minimum just to get all your stuff off, change, get everything to the bus. Probably 20, 30 minutes by the time you board the plane. I mean, you're talking several hours. So you don't even get up in the air till 11:30 at night Pacific Standard Time, and then it's 2:30 East Coast time. So by the time you land, sometimes the sun's coming out. That to me throws you off. Vice versa, when you play on the East, fly back west, you gain time. So it makes it a little bit easier. I do think there is some value, like if you're the Patriots or just any team, and you got like a stretch where you play like the Chargers and then the Seahawks or the Rams and then the 49ers. And it's like you just stay, in Southern California or whatever. Kind of some solid team bonding. Obviously, it works when you win. I think at the end of the day, a lot comes down to like, is your team good? Because if your team's good, these guys are used to. Think about now in football, in college football. If you're Minnesota, you come out to play UCLA, and then you play Oregon. Like these guys, over the next couple years, are going to get kind of numb to the travel and the distances that some of these conferences have to go, right? If you are UCF, you're in the Big 12, you come out to play Arizona State. I mean, then you go to Kansas. I mean, some of the travel distances now in college. Stanford and Cal are in the ACC. That means they play Boston College, they play Duke and North Carolina, Miami and Clemson and Florida State. I mean, these guys, they're used to some long road trips. Plus, in the pros, these guys are good with their bodies. The teams take it so seriously how to rehab and recover. So It's not a big deal, but it's probably a little overhyped. I think it's fair, unless you just have an ungodly amount of travel, which the coastal teams can get depending on their schedule, right? Seattle, the Niners, the LA teams, obviously the Jets, the Giants, the Patriots, Panthers. If you draw the opposite end of the NFC West or the AFC East, like you're going to have some long flights. Hi from Down Under. As a fellow podcaster, how do you prepare for your podcast? It is one thing to prepare for a guest, but being a solo podcaster is at a different level. What is your key to success? Also, what coffee do you drink? Would love to send you some coffee. It's like this guy's got a coffee company. Um, I just drink. We got a coffee maker for the wedding. It's actually a pretty nice one with the beans. So I usually get either Starbucks or Pete's or Dunkin', just the beans at Safeway, and dump them in, and a couple shots of espresso in the morning, and then maybe a coffee at lunch. Uh, I would say I've been doing it the same since I've been in radio to podcasting. I just find things that I want to talk about. Obviously, the digital age has changed a little bit. I make notes on my phone whenever things pop into my head. And like today, it's 2 o'clock recording the mailbag. I mean, the mailbag's pretty self-explanatory. You guys are just asking me questions. But for anything that's not the mailbag, I write it out, things that I'm excited about, angles I want to take, yeah, things I think are interesting. Kind of write it out before the show and then press play and just talk about it. Helps me kind of get my thoughts together. It doesn't always work. Sometimes it does. Some shows are better than others. I don't know. I don't really have like a master plan, but I would say most shows are kind of I don't want to say written out like word for word, but kind of write the main topics. It just helps me to hand write some thoughts down. And then anything like I usually get up. It depends. Like this morning, I got up really early because I had to take the dog to the haircut. So I was at the gym by like 6:45. And by the time you get home, it's picked up the dog. It's 8:30. Have some coffee, shower. It's like I got the whole day to attack. Sometimes if I get up at like 6:37, I'll just go make coffee and come right to the office and kind of just figure out what some ideas I want to talk about and then go to the gym at like 9, 10 o'clock. And that kind of gets my mind rolling. So it's just every day is a little different. The off season is where you make your money. I mean, in seasons, I don't want to say easy, but like right now, especially these couple weeks before the draft, there's not going to be much going on. So it's probably a little more uh, creatively inspiring slash difficult, I guess. The fight for the jacket is on in Augusta. Get in on all the action at DraftKings Sportsbook. From the opening round through Championship Sunday, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered with live betting, player props, and so much more. Have you never bet on golf before? Don't worry, I got you covered. I love it and I do it all the time. You just have to pick a simple golfer to win the tourney and make your pick. It's that simple. They also got top 10s, top 20s, head-to-head, a lot of different options. Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code JOHN. That's code JOHN for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. I'm looking for 2026 NFL draft prospects, and I don't see any stars at quarterback. Aller is basically Hackenberg 2.0. Arch Manning is going to stay at Texas for a couple more years. Collective NIL oil money. Klubnik is small. Nico at Tennessee is too skinny. I don't see any quarterbacks that will become starters right away, as they all feel like backups. Do you think teams looking for a future quarterback are in trouble? Does this make veterans like Cousins more valuable? Well, if you think everyone sucks in college, I'm not saying you, which you kind of do, but like if you're an NFL team and you always have to also look ahead. So you have to have a pretty good idea. And clearly things change during a season, but hey, we like three or four of these quarterback prospects. It was like 2 years ago. There was a lot of buzz on Drake May, on obviously Caleb, on JJ McCarthy, and then guys like Bo Nix. Bo Nix not as much. Well, a little bit. I mean, he had a good season his first year at Oregon. Michael Penix were just intriguing prospects. So you kind of look. I think Klubnik's kind of intriguing. I don't know his measurables. I think Arch is a major wild card. He could be a star. Who knows? I mean, but he also might not be. Nico's got a long way to go before we can talk about him getting drafted high. But things change. I mean, we've talked about this a lot. Is at this time going into their senior years, no one would have talked about Baker Mayfield or Joe Burrow as the number one overall pick. Not a soul. And Baker wasn't a no brainer, but Joe Burrow sure was. So I think the, the powerful part about a season is like you control your own destiny. You ball out, you dominate. Like Nico, what if Nico wins the Heisman next year? Not saying he will, but if he kind of finally lives up to that ability, he could be a top five pick. Cam Ward is a good example. He's going to go number one overall. He went back to school because they're like, yeah, you'll probably be like a third or fourth round pick. So things change so much. You're on the right names, but it's hard to say for certain. I'm with you on Arch. Like I think it would be shocking unless he Texas goes like 15-0. They don't lose a game. He wins the Heisman. Maybe he just comes out. He's the number one overall pick. But the other guys, yeah, major question marks. Who knows? But it can go good too. Like it can go bad. It can go good. The thing with Kirk Cousins, he's 37. He makes a lot of money, and he doesn't look like he's playing that well. So I guess it gives him some leverage. But ultimately, if Kirk Cousins is your quarterback, do you feel great about it right now in 2025? You felt good about it 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know if you feel great about it now. I just think things change so dramatically that it's hard to know what a future draft will look like. I think it's really, really difficult. You know, if I would have told you last year at this time that this 5'8" running back from Boise State is going to be, most people think, a top 10 pick, you thought it was nuts. I'm like, well, he's about to run for like 2,500 yards. You would have thought Travis Hunter would be a top pick for sure. But think about some of the other guys. You just never know. I don't understand why teams in the draft would take the same position or near the same position as their star players, like the Browns that already have Myles Garrett. Why would they draft Carter? Or the Giants that just drafted Neighbors, but they're thinking about taking Hunter. Can you make this make sense? With such important picks, why wouldn't you pick a serious need? Because the old adage is draft the best player. When you take need, it just brings in more potential risk because sometimes the need, right, doesn't equal the board. So why would you take Travis Hunter if you're the Giants and you just took Malik Neighbors? Well, he's by far the best player on your board, for example. And you go, well, he could also play corner. We need a corner. And if you are the Cleveland Browns, you're like, we don't love any of these quarterbacks at pick two. And if we take Abdul Carter, we think he's a star pass rusher. And in a couple years, we'll move on from Myles Garrett. And he will be our Myles Garrett. And for a couple years, we will have them both together. So we'll have arguably the best defensive player in the league to go with one of the young up and coming stars. A position of strength can turn into a position of need with one broken ankle. So things can change really fast. Most teams aren't like 3, 4 deep. So having an extra player at a position beside quarterback makes a lot of sense. So I don't think teams look at it quite like that. Now, when the need, like I need a left tackle, there's a star left tackle there. It's an easy pick. But this isn't a good draft. So like who should the Giants take? Assuming they don't take a quarterback. Just take the best player on the board. Figure it out later. If every team needs to spend at least 90% of the salary cap over a 4-year average per the salary cap floor rule, where do the media / former players get off by saying teams like the Bengals don't spend money? I absolutely have no issue with it, as I am a Bears fan and we just paid our way to possibly having a winning team next year. But just curious, because it seems like everybody is within 10% of each other in terms of spending at the end of the day. Well, I think there's a big difference. And listen, I mean, the players, especially former players, are always going to complain the teams aren't spending enough, right? I mean, that's the money that they're trying to get, which I've said this before, but it's really kind of crystallized this offseason, is like they're in a partnership, a 50-50 agreement. Some of you listening, and I am as well, you're in partnerships, right? Most of our partnerships lay out pretty, if you're in a 50-50 or 30-70 or whatever, a dollar comes in, you split it like that. Yet the players who are in this partnership are, obligated to their percentage, yet they have to fight for their cut. And the teams dictate. I mean, it's a pretty incredible business. Like, we have to pay these players, but we get to pick and choose who we want to pay. And we're going to make you beg for it. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. But, the Bengals are a good example. And we hit on this a couple weeks ago. They just paid their two wide receivers, but they didn't manipulate the salary cap. Both those two guys, if you combine their salary cap number in 2025, is dramatically higher combined than guys last year. Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk. Their cap numbers that first year was really low because you can prorate it over the life of a deal. Hell, the Eagles and the 49ers just make up void years just to spread out the signing bonus. The Bengals didn't do that because it actually manipulates their cap so they don't actually have that much room. And you can give huge cash bonuses as quote unquote signing bonuses and manipulate a contract. That's not necessarily what the Bengals are doing. So they're cheap relative to Jeffrey Lurie, right? Or some of these owners that are spending a lot of their actual cash. Last year, Jed York, the Haslams, they spend a lot of cash, but people would say the Bengals don't. Now, do they have it or not relative to those guys? No. Mike Brown does not have Jimmy Haslam money, or even at this point in time, Jeffrey Lurie money, not even close. But he also avoids those situations as much as possible. So these are first class, super rich guy problems, but they're just cheaper than other teams. The Crafts get knocked on this. Yeah, the salary cap, again, the salary cap is just money that's given through the partnership of the league. So that money's getting handed to you, whether you have a good or bad team, make money or don't make money, and all the teams do. But in terms of that's the media money that pays for your salary cap. Because the media's check is if the salary cap's $250 million, the media money is like $425 million. So it's impossible to lose money on your players. And again, you are obligated to give them the money. They just have to beg and fight for it with their agents. But I think there's some validity to it, but I'm with you. I think stuff goes overboard, but that's just kind of the world we live in. Huge fan of the show. The Titans take Cam Ward at 1. The Cowboys trade Dak Prescott to the Browns for the number 2 pick and take Shedeur Sanders. The Giants select Travis Hunter at 3, boost their underrated defense, and the Eagles trade A.J. Brown, a first-round pick, and maybe more to the Patriots for number 4 and draft Abdul Carter. Vrabel would love to get Brown back, which would be huge for Drake May's development in New England. The Browns likely had to promise Myles Garrett they were going to make a move, and getting a proven quarterback like Dak makes sense with their win now mindset. The Giants secure an elite corner, making the defense even stronger. The Eagles already dominant in the trenches at a game-changing outside pass rusher to pair with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, making them even scarier. The big question are whether the Browns take on Dak's contract, if the Cowboys truly trust Shedeur Sanders, and if the Eagles value Abdul Carter. It's a well thought out, a lot of moves there. There was a rumor within the last, I don't know, couple weeks from somebody, I'd never heard of him, but it made its round out there on the interweb about Dak Prescott to the Browns for number 2. I don't know the exact details that he said. I would imagine if it was number 2, Dak Prescott, I don't even know. Who knows? It's pretty complicated because they just paid Dak Prescott a ton of money. I don't know why you would trade the number 2 pick for Dak Prescott, given that there are a lot of question marks with actually how good he is. He doesn't have a great arm. He plays in a dome. You play in a cold, not a great environment for weak arm quarterbacks. It's really windy there in Cleveland. You play in an outdoor division in Pittsburgh, in Baltimore. It's really cold. I don't think I would do that. Now, if you were Jerry, again, complicated. I think it would destroy their cap. I think you would think about it from a marketing standpoint. The chances that Shedeur Sanders is better than Dak based on just history, how often quarterbacks that are drafted are better than a guy that's been a really good player for a long time. Now, we can nitpick him. Obviously, he has flaws. Obviously, he's not a top five quarterback, but he's a really good starter. And proven like over and over, you can win double digit games with him as your starting quarterback. There is no guarantee Shedeur Sanders can do that. So, from a marketing buzz, it'd be incredible, but then you actually got to play the games. So, I don't know. I don't think I would do that if I was the Browns. Lifelong Chiefs fan. Help the miles fall off trucking America. Appreciate you. My question is: as Kelsey clearly ages and Noah Gray seems to not be a solution, should the Chiefs trade for Kyle Pitts? I'm sure a 6th round pick would pass. I do think the Chiefs are going to be interested in doing like how are they going to acquire talent, right? They are drafting at the end of these rounds every single year, so it's harder to get flyers. It's why they have taken. Trying to think in recent memory, have they done that recently? Obviously, they made the big trade with Tyreek Hill, but they trade for someone else. I don't know why my mind's not working. I feel like he had a pretty good year last year. Not really. He had 47 catches. I think is he going into his 5th year option? I don't know. I would probably do it for a 5th or 6th if you're them. But I'm pretty sure his like contract isn't small. Kyle Pitts contract. Say this about Google. The AI thing's pretty legit. Comes right up. So Kyle Pitts is scheduled to make $10.8 million. That'd be an expensive tight end room because Kelsey makes a lot, and then you're paying Pitts 10.8. I don't think financially it works. If he was making like he did last year, I mean, he was drafted so high, he's made a lot of money. Kyle Pitts for a guy that it has not gone great is doing pretty well financially. Cash breakdown visual. Why can't I see the summary of? I mean, he originally signed a $32 million contract, and then next year's 5th year option is another 10. So he's gonna make like $40+ million in 5 years. It listen, it sucks getting drafted high to bad teams if you're a good player and that team stays bad. But financially, there's a big difference to going top 5 than like pick 20. Big difference. Okay, last question. Bucks fan here. Long question for you. Why does everyone feel the need to dump on the NFC South? For the past 10 years, the Falcons went to the Super Bowl with the MVP. The Panthers went to the Super Bowl with the MVP. The Bucks won the Super Bowl. The Saints were successful during an era with multiple playoff appearances. And if it wasn't for that PI call against and the Minnesota Miracle, they would have went to a Super Bowl and the NFC Championship game. Why doesn't anyone dump on the AFC South, which has done way less? How does a division with 3 teams that made the Super Bowl always get bashed in the media more than the AFC South? Well, you guys are much more relevant. Like you said, I mean, the Panthers, Cam Newton was just a major story for a decade. The Matt Ryan Falcons is still talked about the 28-3 game. The Saints were, I mean, a stalwart conversation in the NFL once Peyton got there with Breeze and then kill the head, the body will die, the suspensions, that second version of them with Dennis Allen as the defensive coordinator, and the Bucks who are just good. I just think you guys are way more relevant. Like the AFC South is by far, the least relevant division in the NFL. The Colts post Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck. What are we talking about? The Titans have just not bringing much to the table. The Jags are really not bringing much to the table. I mean, the Jags are terrible. I think people underestimate how bad their records have been. If you just go to the Jags over the last, let's just start in '07. I'm just going to read you win totals since '07. So starting in '08. 5, 7, 8, 5, 2, 4, 3, 5, 3, 17 out of nowhere, 10. Then they go on a great stretch here. 5, 6, 1. Forgot that. They went 1 and 15. Holy shit, they were bad in 20. Three, 9-8, 9-8, and then last year back to who they are, 4-13. They're a bad franchise. You could argue right now they're one of the worst, if not the worst franchise in the NFL. They're really bad. So I think it's that. So you got the Colts, the Titans, the Jags. Why do I always forget the other team? Who am I forgetting? Standings. Oh, the Texans. I think the Texans. It's like whenever I see should so and so move to Austin, Texas. Like Texas doesn't need another team. The Cowboys is enough. They don't even need Houston, but Houston's such a big market. And Houston's solid, but I do think Houston, even when they're solid, the last couple of years, they get overshadowed in that state by the Cowboys. So it just shows you. I mean, I talk about football for a living, and I'm trying to like name off the South team, and you just forget that there is not another division. The AFC East has had two good teams for 20 years: the Patriots and now the Bills. Yet when you think the AFC East, the Dolphins and the Jets consistently are suck. It's like you just the Dolphins and the Jets. The AFC West, same thing. It's like Chiefs have dominated that thing for a while. The Raiders haven't been good the majority of my adult life. And you just the Raiders, you know. There's always kind of doing something. Yet I'm with you. The AFC South, you guys take more shit. It's like what did Reggie Jackson say? They don't boo nobodies. You guys are just a little more relevant, way more relevant than that division. There's a reason Mike Tomlin gets talked about a lot. He's a coach of the Steelers. If Mike Tomlin was a 17-year vet as the coach of the Jags, it wouldn't be the same. So it's just like brands do kind of matter. They matter. I'm wearing Travis Matthews right now. I'm wearing rainbow sandals. Got a Stanley next to me. It's like the Steelers, the Yankees, the Lakers, the Packers. Then there's the Jags, the Colts. I love Nashville. Just got married there. The Titans are like feel like an afterthought in that part of the country. You know what matters down there? The SEC. So I hear you. You guys are also an SEC country, but clearly your football teams have just well run. I mean, think about the difference of like Chris Ballard. I don't think they made the playoffs in 7, 8 years. And the Jags, we just read off their win total. They probably average over the last 15, 16, 17 years, 5, 6 wins a year. I mean, you guys, the Falcons had Thomas Dimitroff for a long time. Julio Jones, Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, Tom Brady. The Bucks did suck before that. Drew Brees, Sean Payton. So you're 100% correct. Good good DM. Adios everybody.